My wife doesn't respect me and humiliates me in front of my friends. She can't believe that I've reached the tipping point in our marriage and called the lawyers. We've been married for 19 years. For the last 15 of those years, I've watched our connection slowly fade like a photograph left in the sun. 3 months ago, we finally had the talk. Sat at our kitchen table for 4 hours, hashing out everything that had gone wrong between us. We both agreed date nights would help. Weekly commitments just for us. Her idea, actually. She even bought a calendar for the fridge so we could mark them down together. I thought we were finally turning a corner. Out of the 9 date nights I planned over the next 2 months, she canceled 7 of them. Sometimes with a few hours notice, sometimes with none at all. She'd come home from work already changed into going out clothes and casually mention she was meeting her friends for drinks. When I'd point at the calendar on the fridge, she'd shrug and say she forgot. Every single time she forgot, but I kept trying. That's what you do after 19 years, right? 2 weeks ago, I decided to plan something she couldn't ignore. A whole weekend away. I booked a suite at the Langham downtown. $847 a night. Dinner reservations at a Michelin star restaurant that had a 3-month waiting list. Theater tickets for a show she'd mentioned wanting to see back in January. I even scheduled a personal shopper so she could pick out something nice to wear. I picked her up from work on Friday afternoon. Told her I had a surprise planned, and she immediately started protesting. Said she had things to do. Errands to run. I assured her everything was handled. She went quiet after that, but the silence in the car felt heavier than any argument we'd ever had. When we got to the hotel, her mood lifted a little. The suite had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and a bathroom bigger than our first apartment. Saturday morning, we went shopping. She picked out a dark blue evening gown that cost more than my first car, matching heels, a necklace that caught the light every time she moved. That evening, when she stepped out of the bathroom, I couldn't breathe. She looked exactly like she did on our wedding day, maybe even more beautiful. When she caught me staring, she smiled and gave me a little twirl. For a moment, I let myself believe we'd found our way back to each other. Dinner was quiet, pleasant, but quiet. We talked about safe things, her sister's new house, our son's college applications. The food was incredible, but the conversation felt like two strangers making small talk on an airplane. At the theater, I'd arranged for 2 of our closest friends to join us. Mike and Sandra had known us since before we got married. We took our seats and the show started. During intermission, I reached over and placed my hand on top of hers. Just a small gesture, the kind of thing married people do without thinking. She yanked her hand away like I'd pressed a lit cigarette into her skin. Then she turned to me with this look on her face, cold, almost disgusted. And she said loud enough for everyone around us to hear that whatever I was thinking was going to happen when we got back to the hotel, I could forget about it. Her voice dripped with so much contempt that a woman 2 rows ahead actually turned around to stare. Mike and Sandra wouldn't make eye contact with me. They just sat there frozen, pretending to read their programs. Something inside me broke in that moment. Not angry, just done. I stood up calmly and apologized to our friends, told them I was leaving and hoped they enjoyed the rest of the show. Then I walked out of that theater without looking back. I got a text from Mike 20 minutes later. He said when he told my wife I'd left, she just shrugged her shoulders. I packed my bag at the hotel and caught the last train home. Sunday morning, I moved all my clothes into the guest room, went to IKEA and bought new bedroom furniture. When she finally got home that evening, she asked why I was being childish. I explained the 7 canceled dates, the humiliation at the theater, the shrug. She asked if intimacy was all I cared about. A week later, her best friend Beth called to ask what happened. My wife had only told her part of the story. I filled in the rest. Beth went silent for a long moment, then asked what I planned to do. I told her I'd already canceled the anniversary trip to Paris I'd been secretly planning. Then I mentioned I'd spoken to a divorce attorney. Beth called my wife on speakerphone right then, told her everything. My wife actually laughed and said she knew I'd get over it because I could never say no to her. That's when Beth told her the Paris trip was already canceled. Yesterday, I came home to find my wife sitting at the kitchen table with swollen red eyes. I placed 2 envelopes in front of her. The first contained separation papers from my lawyer. The second contained a list of marriage counselors. I told her to pick one before I got back from my trip to California. She laughed again, asked if I was really serious, said I was throwing a tantrum and needed to get over it. So I called my attorney right in front of her and scheduled an appointment to discuss next steps. The look on her face when she realized I wasn't bluffing. 19 years of marriage and she never once considered I would actually leave. Now she's alone and miserable while I'm thriving with my kids.